Hi parents and students. I just wanted to go over how when we take a multiple choice quiz for chapter 6 and the test, how all the options can be used to like your advantage, okay? So as shown in this screen over here, this is the correct way of working this particular problem out. Okay, so best case scenario, the students can multiply and they can simplify. That would be the best way to obviously be able to do the problem. And then let's say for whatever reason, this is option B on the test. They would pick this option because it matches what they have. But let's say a student is stuck and they kind of forget the steps they need. I want to make sure I go over how you can use your calculator and the multiple choice to help you out. So because this would be the correct multiple choice option, I want to show you an incorrect choice. So this one is correct. And I'm going to show you one that's incorrect. And that would be something like, let's do 12x squared, square root of 3x. That one would be incorrect. So the first thing we do is if there's a variable, you have to define that variable by a number. So I'm going to pick a small number like 2. So instead of being 3 square root of 6x, I'm going to do 3 square root of 6 times 2. So every time I see an x, I'm going to make it into a 2. And then we're going to multiply that by 2 square root. Instead of 2x, I'm going to do 2 times 2. So again, you pick a random number for x so you can type it into your calculator. Now please come over to my calculator screen. I'm going to type this teal highlight into my calculator and get a very random decimal. So it's 3 square root of 6 times 2. And then a times symbol with a 2 and a square root of 2 times 2. I get a very odd looking decimal of 41.5569, and it just continues on. All right, so what I want to show you is how could a student know that this purple choice is the correct choice on the test and this red choice is the incorrect choice. So they set x to the same number. So remember I made it 2. So instead of doing 12 times x on my calculator, I do 12 times that same number I picked up here, and then I do the square root of 3. Now this is a multiple choice option. Notice I get 41.569, and it continues, and it's the same decimal that it was up above. That is the correct choice. The incorrect choice, like let's say they're making their way through it, let's put a 2 in for this one. So put a 2 in for that x and that x. So 12 times 2 to the second power, square root of 3 times a 2. Remember, we're just putting in a random number for x. Notice how I get a decimal that doesn't resemble the upper decimal whatsoever. So you can see that this is the correct choice, and this one would be, if it was a multiple choice option, that would be correct because it matches the original random decimal I generated. I also want to show students how to be able to do this with a fraction because I think that can be a very difficult thing. So this method is wonderful, but if we don't know how to do fractions, it really becomes something that's, well, just not beneficial for them. All right, so number 36. Again, the best case scenario is that students can go through the work and they can get this as the correct answer. All right, and that would be called rationalizing. But let's say that they're just stuck and they're lost and they can't get it. So we go back to the original. Notice on this problem, this would have been the original problem here. There's no x's to sub in, so we literally just put it in our calculator. We don't have to change anything. Here's the hardest part. Students need to remember when there's a fraction to put a parenthesis in the front and the back of their numerator, and the same thing with their denominator. Please watch how I type this original problem in, I think I was using purple up above. Okay. To type this one into the calculator, I actually had to redo this video because I typed it in wrong. You have to use that parenthesis in front of the 7 plus the square root of 6. When I typed in my calculator earlier, I used a time symbol. Hop out of your square root and close your parenthesis. Divide by the quantity in the bottom, so the square root of 84. Hop out of the square root in there. So we have our numerator in parentheses divided by our denominator in parentheses. I get a what looks like random decimal of 1.031 blah, 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 blah. It just goes on. Now, remember the multiple choice test will only have one correct answer, and this will be the one correct answer. Again, you must use a parenthesis to start your numerator and end it, and you must do the same in the denominator. Well, technically not in this one, but it's just a good habit. Okay, so here we go. In the numerator, 7 square root of 21, hop out, plus 3 square root of 14, hop out, close your parenthesis. Divided by your denominator in a quantity. So again, the parenthesis before and after of the numerator and the denominator. Notice you get the exact same, what looks like a very random decimal. Now let's say that for some reason, you're checking your answers and, one of the answers is like it's divided by 48. Notice how the decimal is not the same. That would mean that is not the correct answer. So I showed you how to do it with variables. I showed you how to do it with a fraction. Let's see if there's anything else that would be good. All of those, you could do the same method to your madness here. Here, very quickly, I'll do number 53. So this would be the original problem, the stuff that's typed. So you would type it in exactly as you see it. Let's see, there's a parenthesis, there was an 8 and a 2. And the outside of that was squared. So there's, what looks like a very random generated decimal. And the correct multiple choice option would be 12 plus 8 square roots of 2. And again, you can see on the calculator here on the screen, you get the same decimal proving that's the answer. So that is, and you would have to go through all the other multiple choice options as well. The only other one I'd love to show you how to do on a calculator would probably be, let's look at number 59. It's kind of hidden in here, kind of messy, but this would be the original. See how there's an X and a Y? You need to pick a random number for X, I'm going to use 2, and a random number for Y, I'm going to use 3. So instead of typing in X, I'll use 2. Instead of typing in Y, I'll use 3. So I type it in, so with there's variables, you have to pick like a random number for it. So parenthesis 8 times, instead of X to the 9th, 2 to the 9th, and instead of Y to the negative 3rd, I'll have, what I decide Y was, 3 to the negative 3rd. And for good measure, I'm going to put a time symbol right here because I don't want to have to redo this whole problem, so better safe than sorry. And then that is to a power of 4/3, it looks like I wanted that to be. And I'm going to use a parenthesis around my 4/3 because sometimes this calculator app is not the best. Your regular calculator in my classroom, I don't think you'll need those around the 4/3. Okay, so again, what looks like a very random decimal? You would go through all the correct work, and if you did do the correct work, you would end up right here. But again, let's use our calculator to show, now look, I have a fraction, right? So we do parentheses like this. And now I'm going to go to my calculator, so I'll do a parenthesis with a 16. Remember for X, I picked a 2. So times 2 to the 12th. Close my numerator, so parentheses around numerator, and then divide by my denominator, parenthesis. For Y, I picked a 3. I have to stay consistent. I mean, you can use any number you want. I just use very small numbers that are not negative, 0, or 1. When I hit enter, again, I have the same decimal. You can see over there in the calculator, I have 809.08. So that would prove that that would be the correct answer. And any other multiple choice option should give you the exact, like the wrong decimal. If for some reason you get 2 multiple choice options that give you the correct decimal, pick the one that's the most reduced. I hope this has been beneficial moving into the Chapter 6 quiz. Best case scenario, you can do the work the real way, and then you can get the answer without needing the calculator, but it is an option. And not only that, it's a great option come SAT time as well.